previous owners, I mean, there's a couple. I mean, we've had a good time with them regardless of their history. We've had a good history with them. Yeah. The place is amazing. Morning, noon, or night, anytime we've been there, we've had activities. Spent the night there, just been there in the afternoon for a few hours to do some filming stuff, just for our own thing, and it's like, there's always something happening. Whether it's hard to get into or not, I don't know.
We'd love to go back sometime.
Just throw a rock through the window.
All right, guys, we're going. Yes, sir. Well, Mike worked at a call center, and he called one time trying to sell me like a water hose or something. I don't know.
Products for his printer.
No, I got into it. I had an experience. I wanted to get further into it. I was doing it alone, and then I did the Ghost Hunters Academy show with Steve and Tango. They told me to start my own team, or they told me to join a team. I decided to start my own instead. Met with Doogie and Porter, and Brandon came along at the same time, and Chasey. And then Mike, he was working out at the gym with Doogie and Porter, I think, because they worked out at a different gym. And then he came along in production at Ghost Asylum. He was working as a production guy and had a lot of experiences, and decided he wanted to delve more into it. So, yeah.
$5 and a good attitude gets you there. $5 a piece.
Well, guys, thank you so much. We're going to have a great time tonight. Guys, Chad Moore, Ghost Hunt Weekend.
Thank you, guys. So, Chris, Brandon, and Mike, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, give it up. So we're going to announce up here, we got Fishy, ladies and gentlemen. She's the director of the Clay County Archives here, and she's going to talk a little bit about the history of haunts, actually more of the history here. So, Fishy, ladies and gentlemen.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. So, you all are sitting in the 1890 courthouse, and the jail that you will be investigating tonight was built in 1894. They used both of these buildings until 1972. So they've got a good long run. The county commissioners got a good bang for their buck. So, currently, this is still a working courthouse. Teen Court is housed in this building. Our Teen Court program is the only program in the United States that has their own courthouse. So, the kids love it here, and we love the kids. So, the archives is housed in the jail, in the section where the jailers' families used to live. Because they lived with the prisoners just on the other side of the wall. And so that went on for the whole time that the jail was being used. Anyhow, I am a Clay County archivist, and so I take care of all the county's oldest records, documents, things like that. We have one of those books here tonight, and one of the team is going to read you a court case, true one, that resulted in the execution of the defendant. We had 7 executions here. They were all by hanging on a scaffold. None of these trees out here were hanging trees. They were all saplings when we had the executions here. We know about the executions because we have the court records. Okay, so they've been in custody of the clerk of the court, archives, all of this time. All of the executions were for murder, except for one, which you're going to learn about, which was for rape. Because back then you could get executed for that. The jail held men, women, juveniles, and it also held the mentally ill. Because Clay County didn't have a hospital until the 1950s. So there was nowhere to take people with mental illness. So they would hold them in the jail until they could have their court case heard in this very courtroom, and then they would get sent to mental hospitals like Chattanooga. We know that we had one suicide in the jail. a man, I can't remember his name right now, that was in 1926. I cannot tell you what cell anybody was in, I just don't have those records. I can't also tell you, if you come and ask me, do you know if a person named Brian was in here? Well, I have jail logs, but you have to understand, between 1894 and 1972, literally thousands of people were held in the jail, so I can't tell you if Brian was held in the jail, because I just don't have a way to go through the hundreds and hundreds of pages of my jail logs to figure that out. We also know that in the 1950s, there was a suicide on the front lawn in between the jail and here. A man stabbed himself to death. Yeah, you know you're determined when you stab yourself to death. I know that we had an unattended death in the jail, a lady named Lizzie. She was in for mental issues. Her actual documents from her court case, her diagnosis was, get this, she had had too many children and was very tired. So, I think it was a case of postpartum depression, but she died in the jail. She was an unattended death. And that was back in the 30s. They didn't do an autopsy. We don't know why she died. Those are just some of the historical facts about the jail. Also, too, the jailers' families lived in the family section. So we had children born in there, and we also had family members die in there. So we've had a complete circle of life in the jail. The courthouse, this is where you came to get married, you came to pay your taxes, you came to get a divorce. All of the criminal trials that were tried right in this courtroom. People would like to think, oh, poor prisoner, he's on trial and he had to sit there and watch his scaffold being built. Didn't quite work like that. If they got a death sentence, it wasn't automatically appealed, and it'd probably be about 6 months to a year later that they were actually executed. Okay. So, Chad, is that enough for you? Or do you have any questions? Anything like that?
Sure. I'm just excited to hear about this. I've been here before, we've been here 3 times, and this is the first time that she's presented this execution summary, or what do you call it?
It's the judge's bench docket, and the judge made notes about the facts of the crime.
So this is actually pretty interesting. I only read a little of it because we were really pressed for time when we got here. And I want to introduce up here Kyle Cobb, ladies and gentlemen. He's going to read this to you. Kyle Cobb is a co-author of mine on the book for the Thomas House. He's a demonologist. He's a war crimes investigator for the UN. So Kyle Cobb, ladies and gentlemen, yes. And he's going to go over this. He's going to read this. This is pretty powerful stuff. So I'm going to let him read this, and it pretty much explains itself. And I think it'll kind of set the mood for this evening. But anyways, I'm going to turn it over to Kyle.
Can everyone hear me if I just don't use the mic? Okay, because it's more than I can manage at this point. And you will bear with me as I attempt to read this, because it's written in cursive from someone 118 years ago. So there's some words that we just want to fumble across. But I'm going to give this a try. The state of Florida versus Frank Richardson. Complaint filed February 18, 1902. This day came the state of Florida, also came Frank Richardson, the defendant, who upon being arraigned says he is not guilty. Wherefrom came state's witness H. Lawrence, who being duly sworn says that she identified the defendant, Frank Richardson, as the man who she says yesterday, while her and her sister were walking on the railroad near the railroad bridge on Governor's Creek, that the defendant called her off the railroad and taken her by the hand and led her into the brush and got her and done it to her, says to take her drawers off and get on her and done it to her, says what she swears by doing it to her that he just put his thing in her thing and had sexual intercourse with her. Says the defendant told her that if she didn't keep still and shut her damned mouth, he would cut her throat. Says the event late yesterday afternoon in the town of Green Cove Springs, Clay County, Florida. As well as I can tell, yesterday was the 17th day of February 1902. Then came Lewis, a state's witness, who being duly sworn, says that yesterday afternoon, February 17th, 1902, that he was going along near the railroad bridge in the town of Green Cove Springs, Clay County, Florida. He saw the defendant with Hester Lawrence down on the ground, and he was on top of her, working it all he could, screwing the girl. I mean by screwing her that he had his thing in her thing. I walked right up close to them and told him to get off of that girl. And when he got off, I also saw him pull his thing out of her thing. I am positive that he was actually had sex intercourse with her, because he had her legs spread just as far as he could get them, and he was on top of her doing it to her. And when I said to him to get off, to turn her loose, I told him to cause, and I go on with, and I told him that we were going to go on to see Mr. Peeler, the sheriff. He did not want to go until I presented a gun at him, and then he came along with me. Bruno Lagasse and I believe it's Samuel Florin had come up to where we were by that time. Bruno Lagasse swore and says, I saw the defendant yesterday afternoon between here and Magnolia in the town of Green Cove Springs in Clay County, Florida, where I came upon to where him and Lewis, I believe it's Summers, where the defendant was drawn on the ground on his knees with his hands out. This girl, Esther Lawrence, was 5 or 6 feet away. I did not see him doing anything to her, but there were signs on the ground where he was like there had been a scuffle. He did not want to get up until Lewis Summers drew a gun at him. From the evidence, there is no reason to believe that Frank Richardson was not guilty as charged. It is therefore ordered that he be held for bail till the next hearing, or the next session, I think it is, of the circuit court, and then it says to answer to said charges. So that's the actual historic record for Mr. Frank Richardson, who was hung about the neck in 1902. Sorry if that was a little fumbling.
No, it's fair. That's a little different, wasn't it? Like what you hear like nowadays, you know what I'm saying? So that was like what year was that?
1902.
Wow. And then they executed him here on the gallows, right? Is that the one with the photo that we saw?
No, that's a different guy.
But the same spot, right?
Yes.
Basically.
Right there in the parking lot in front of the jail.
So that's got to be one of the spots that we go to investigate. Now we had personal experiences here the last time we were here, basically from where the gallows was. We had things that happened. We actually saw movement in here, but we were outside. and we had the lights on. We had all these lights off, but the colored lights were on. And when we were standing by where the gallows was, we could see somebody moving in the room, like walking in front of the windows. So I radioed Rob. I'm like, hey, somebody's walking around in the room. I thought somebody had broken away from their group and was just in here, just kind of walking around on their own. And he came up here. He says, "There's nobody up here. Everybody's in the group." And I said, "Please check," because I just saw somebody walk in front of the window, and it was me. Like, there was a bunch of us that saw it. And there was 10, 15 people that saw it. And it was somebody walking. But it was weird because it would go all the way across, but it never like went up or down. It was like a smooth movement, which was really weird. So then I thought, well, maybe it was a moth that went in front of one of the lights. And I was trying to figure out what it was in the natural. But anyways, what do we have? We have just a few more minutes. Thank you, Kyle. That was amazing. Thank you, Fishy. And then when we come back, we're going to think